They said I was too poor to marry him, but Allah wrote our nikah. My sister, my brother, this story will melt your heart and remind you that risk and love are in the hands of Allah alone. Before we begin, kindly subscribe to this channel, like this video, I was never ashamed of being poor. I grew up in a small home with walls that carried more dua than decorations, and the mother who raised us with sabr instead of silver. But poverty has a way of making you feel small, especially when you stand in front of those who measure a person by their wealth, not their worth. The first time I saw him wasn't at a wedding or some fancy gathering. It was in the masjid after Fajr. His forehead was marked with sujud, and his voice was soft when he greeted the elders. At first, I thought nothing of it, but as days passed, I heard more about him. A righteous young man, people said, educated, respectful, and loved by his family. A quiet hope began to grow in my heart. Could it be possible that someone like him would one day look my way? But then I heard the whispers too. She is too poor. She has nothing to offer. Her family can't even afford a proper wedding. Every word pierced me like a knife. But I reminded myself, risk is from Allah, and so is marriage. If it is written, not even the wealth of the world can take it away from me. And that was how the storm began. The storm began when his family started looking for a wife for him. Proposals came from wealthy homes, daughters of businessmen, women with gold that sparkled more than their deen. And in the middle of all that, my name was mentioned. I still remember the silence in their living room when someone said, "What about her? She is righteous. She prays. She is known for her good character." But the silence was quickly broken. "She is too poor. She will be a burden, not a blessing. Marry someone who can bring wealth into this family, not poverty." Those words pierced me, though they were never said to my face. Somehow, whispers always find their way to the ears of the poor. I cried that night, not because I was rejected, but because I feared that maybe they were right. What did I really have to offer? No gold, no status, no expensive clothes. Just a heart that made dua at night and hands that had learned to live with little. But when I opened the Qur'an, my eyes fell on the verse, "If they are poor, Allah will enrich them out of His bounty." Surah An-Nur, chapter 24, verse 32. That verse lit a flame in my heart. I whispered to myself, if Allah wrote it, no one can erase it. And so I kept making dua, unseen by the world, but heard by the Lord of the worlds. Days turned into weeks. The proposals kept coming to his family, each one wealthier, more prestigious than the last. And me, I kept hearing whispers of rejection. She is not beautiful enough. She is not from our class. She is not what we want for our son. Each word stung like a thorn pressed deeper into my heart. But he was different. He saw me not with the eyes of the dunya, but with the lens of the akhirah. He would tell his mother gently, beauty fades, wealth disappears, but faith, iman, remains. Yet his words fell on ears sealed by pride. They wanted status, they wanted show, they wanted a bride they could boast about in gatherings. One evening, as I sat alone, the pain became too heavy. I raised my hands and whispered through tears, Ya Allah, if this is good for my deen, my dunya, and my akhirah, then bring it to me, no matter how impossible it seems. But if it will harm me, then remove it from my heart. That night, I slept with swollen eyes, but a calmer soul, because I realized something. It was never about them. It was always about Allah. The next morning, I woke to hushed voices in the house. My mother's worried tone, my father's silence. When I entered, they exchanged glances, then lowered their eyes. Another rejection had arrived. The boy's family said it clearly. She does not suit us. She is not worthy. I felt my chest tighten, but I held back my tears. Not because I was strong, but because I was tired of crying. Yet what I did not know was that the boy himself had overheard their words. And for the first time, he spoke with fire in his voice. Do you reject what Allah loves? Do you despise modesty? Do you look down on what the Prophet ﷺ himself honored? His family fell silent. No one had ever heard him raise his voice before. But their silence was not agreement. It was anger, burning deep inside. And from that day, the battle was no longer between me and their rejection. It was between him and the very people who raised him. That night, I could not sleep. I kept asking myself, why would he defend me like that? Why would he stand up to his own blood for someone like me? Meanwhile, in his home, the storm was raging. His mother wept loudly, accusing him. You would throw away your future for a poor girl with nothing? His uncles sneered. She will drag your name into the dust. Do you want to shame us all? But he, with calmness and certainty, replied, Honor is not in wealth. Dignity is not in faces. Allah gives honor to whom He wills. The room grew hotter with anger. His own father pointed a finger at him, trembling with rage. If you choose her, then you are no longer my son. Silence fell. Every eye was fixed on him. Would he bend? Would he apologize? But instead, he lowered his gaze, tears welling in his eyes, and whispered, If I must lose everything, let it not be Allah. That single sentence shook the walls of that house. For the first time, they realized this was no boy speaking. This was a man ready to sacrifice for what was right. And that sacrifice would only grow heavier. From that day, whispers began to circle. Relatives, neighbors, even so-called friends, all carried one message to his family. Stop him before it's too late. How can the son of a respected household marry a girl with nothing? She will stain your name forever. His mother could not sleep. Her pride burned like fire. She summoned her sisters and cousins. Together, they sat in her living room, voices sharp like daggers. We must destroy this before it grows. She must be made to leave him willingly. If he refuses to abandon her, we will make her life unbearable.
And so, they began their plot. The next morning, rumors reached my ears. People I barely knew would smirk at me. Some would whisper loud enough for me to hear. "Poor girl, thinking she can climb so high. Does she not know she is nothing?" Each word was a thorn in my heart. I wanted to disappear. But then, in the quiet of the night, I raised my hands and cried, "Ya Allah, if this path is good for my deen, my dunya, and my akhirah, make it firm. But if it will lead to harm, take it away and replace it with what is better." I fell asleep with tears still on my cheeks, not knowing that their schemes had only just begun. The first trick came quietly, like poison slipped into water. One evening, he stopped by to visit me, but his eyes, his tone, something was different. He said, "You've been speaking about me to others, that you're boasting, telling people I promised you marriage." My heart dropped. I shook my head furiously, tears rushing before words. "Wallahi, I never said such a thing. I guard your name as I guard my own. They are lying, please believe me." But doubt had been planted. I could see it in his eyes. The silent question, the hesitation. He wanted to trust me, but the voices around him were louder, persistent, venomous. And while he left with uncertainty, I was left with a storm in my chest. I ran to my prayer mat. I pressed my forehead on the ground until it ached. "Ya Allah, you know the truth. Clear my name. Protect our bond. Do not let lies separate us." But the enemies of truth were not resting. The very next day, they sharpened their knives for the next cut. It happened where everyone could see. A family gathering, laughter, food, warm greetings, but beneath it, a hidden plot. I entered with my head bowed, as always, respectful, quiet, but whispers started before I could even sit. One cousin laughed out loud and said, "So, sister, when is the big wedding you keep bragging about?" The hall went silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward me. I froze. "What wedding?" I whispered. My voice trembled. Another voice from the corner shouted, "Don't pretend. We all heard you've been telling people he's yours already." Gasps, murmurs. Faces I once trusted looked at me with suspicion, even disgust. My cheeks burned, my chest tightened, and he was sitting there, watching me. His brows furrowed, his lips pressed tight. He didn't defend me, not a single word. I wanted the ground to open and swallow me. I wanted to scream the truth, but my voice, it broke into sobs instead. I excused myself and ran, tears spilling, heart shattering. That night, on my prayer mat, I cried until dawn. Not because of what they said, but because the one who knew my heart remained silent.
His silence, it hurt more than the lies. If a stranger accused me, I could bear it. But him, the one whose opinion I valued most, he sat there, quiet. And silence, sometimes, is sharper than words. For days, I replayed that moment. Every laugh, every suspicious stare, every second of his unmoving lips. I stopped eating properly, stopped smiling. Even my salah was soaked with tears, my sujood heavy, with whispers only Allah could hear. Ya Allah, you know my heart. You know I never claimed what wasn't mine. But why is he letting them believe it? at times, a dark thought crept in. Maybe he believes them. Maybe in his eyes, I am guilty. And yet, in that breaking, I found a strange nearness to Allah. I began waking in the last third of the night, clutching the Qur'an to my chest, begging for strength. The more people doubted me, the more I turned to the one who never doubts his servant. Still, my spirit dimmed. My laughter faded, and every time I saw him, I searched his face for a sign. Just one glance of reassurance, but his eyes were cold. Just when I thought my voice had drowned in their lies, Allah sent me a defender I never imagined. It wasn't my husband. It wasn't a close friend. It was his own younger sister, the one who rarely spoke in family gatherings, who always kept her head lowered as if she was invisible. That day, when the whispers grew loud again, and someone boldly declared, "We all know she pretends to be so pious," her soft voice cut through the room. Enough. Silence. Everyone turned. I've lived with her. I've seen her in the quiet hours when no one is watching. She prays when others sleep. She cries to Allah when no one notices. If you call that a lie, then what truth do you know? The room froze. Eyes darted between me and her. For the first time, someone had broken the chain of whispers. And in that moment, my heart trembled. Because I realized Allah never leaves his servant defenseless. When you stand with him in the unseen, he will send helpers from where you least expect. But as her words lingered in the air, I looked at him. And still, nothing. Not a word, not a nod, not even relief on his face. That silence cut me all over again. His silence was heavier than their accusations. I kept asking myself, why doesn't he defend me? Why doesn't he speak when he knows the truth? That night, after everyone left, I finally asked him, why do you stay quiet when you know their words are lies? He lowered his gaze, and for the first time I saw it. Not indifference, but a storm. He whispered, "Do you think it's easy for me? Every time I open my mouth to defend you, my own mother's eyes fill with tears. She says I've chosen you over her. She says I've broken her heart." My chest tightened. So it wasn't silence out of weakness. It was silence torn between loyalty and love. He continued, "I know you were innocent. I know Allah sees your truth. But if I speak too loudly, they will say I am blinded by you. So I stay silent, waiting for Allah to clear your name himself." Tears burned my eyes. I wanted to be angry, but I couldn't, because I knew the weight of a son's heart. And yet, that silence still crushed me, because while he waited for Allah's justice, I was the one being shredded daily by their whispers. But little did I know, Allah's justice was closer than anyone thought. The whispers grew louder. Some relatives avoided her. Others looked at her with suspicion. One evening, she overheard two women speaking in low tones. How could he even think of marrying her? Didn't you hear what was said about her past? Her heart sank. She wanted to scream, It's not true. I am innocent." But she stayed silent. That night, she cried before Allah. Her sujood was soaked with tears as she whispered, "Ya Allah, you are my witness. You know I am clean of what they accuse me. I place my honor in your hands. Do not let lies destroy me." Meanwhile, her fiancé began to notice the change. He saw the shift in the way people spoke to him, the subtle warnings, the strange silences whenever he mentioned her name. He finally asked one of his cousins directly, "Why are you all trying to make me doubt her? What is it that you know?" The cousin hesitated, then poured out the poisoned words. Her fiancé's heart shook. The accusations were heavy. For the first time, doubt tried to creep in. That night, he couldn't sleep. He paced the room, torn between what he knew of her character and what his family insisted was true. In the stillness of the night, he opened the Qur'an and his eyes fell upon the verse, "Indeed, those who came with falsehood are a group among you. Do not think it bad for you. Rather, it is good for you." Surah An-Nur, chapter 24, verse 11. He froze. The story of Aisha radiallahu anha being falsely accused came alive before his eyes. Could it be that she was being tested the same way? His chest tightened. "Ya Allah, guide me to the truth. Show me what is real." That night, as she lay on her prayer mat after Asha, her tears soaked the carpet. She whispered, "Ya Allah, if this man is truly written for me, then strengthen his heart. And if he is not, then remove him from my path gently, without breaking me." But while she prayed for strength, whispers began to creep into her mind. What if he gives up on you? What if his parents convince him to marry another? What if all your dreams come crashing down? Her chest tightened. She felt suffocated. She remembered his words, "I will stand by you no matter what." But tonight she wondered, could even the strongest love survive the weight of poverty and family rejection? The next morning, she woke up with puffy eyes. She avoided checking her phone. She feared what message might be waiting, or not waiting. But when she finally unlocked it, she froze. There was a long message from him. His tone was different, not cold, but heavy, like he was carrying a storm inside. The first line made her heart pound. "I need to tell you something, and I hope you'll be strong enough to hear it." Her hands trembled. Her duas felt stuck in her throat. Was this the beginning of the end? Or the test before Allah's decree? Her heart raced as she opened the message. Each word felt heavier than the last. "Last night, my parents sat me down again. They said I have no future if I marry you. They reminded me of how hard life already is, how I'm struggling to even find work. And then they said something that cut me deeply." She swallowed hard, her hands shaking. Was this it? Was this the breaking point? But then, the next lines came, firm and fiery. "Wallahi, my heart refuses to let you go. They don't see what I see. They don't know the strength you carry. They don't feel the peace I find when I imagine you by my side. I will not abandon you. But I need you to be patient with me. This battle is bigger than us." She pressed the phone to her chest, sobbing silently. Her fears had almost drowned her, but his words pulled her back like a rope in a storm. Yes, he was shaken. Yes, he was struggling, but he hadn't let go. That night, she raised her hands in dua again. This time, not just for herself, but for him. Ya Allah, if this love is pure and pleasing to you, then make us stronger than the whispers of people. And if it is not, then replace it with what is better, even if my heart does not see it now. Her tears fell, but this time they were not just of pain, but of surrender. The following days were heavy. His message gave her hope, but reality pressed harder than ever. Her family had started to notice the sadness in her eyes. Her mother whispered one night, "My daughter, don't let a man's promise steal your future. Many men talk with honey tongues, but when hardship comes, they vanish like smoke." Her chest tightened. She wanted to scream, "But he's not like them." But her lips stayed sealed. On his side, the battle was fiercer. At every family meal, the silence around him grew louder. His father wouldn't look him in the eye. His mother sighed heavily whenever he entered. His siblings mocked him behind his back. One evening, his father finally spoke. "Son, if you marry her, don't call me father again." The words struck like a sword. He sat frozen, his heart pounding. That night, he couldn't sleep either. He paced his small room, whispering, "Ya Allah, is this a test of my love for her or a test of my love for you? Give me clarity. Don't let my heart be blinded." Meanwhile, she was awake too, clutching her prayer beads. Every whisper of Shaitan echoed in her chest. What if he gives up tomorrow? What if his love isn't enough? What if you're left humiliated with nothing? Her tears wet her pillow, but she still whispered, "Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, alayhi tawakkaltu wa huwa rabbul arshil azim." Allah is sufficient for me. There is no deity but Him. Upon Him I rely, and He is the Lord of the mighty throne. Two souls in two different rooms crying the same dua, not knowing how close relief was. Days passed, and the whispers in the family grew louder. Some mocked her openly, saying, "Do you really think a man of his status will choose a girl like you? Wake up from your dream." Her heart broke with every word, but she held on to patience, repeating softly, "Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, alayhi tawakkaltu, wa huwa rabbul arshil azim." Allah is sufficient for me. There is no God but Him. On Him I rely, and He is the Lord of the mighty throne. Then, one Friday afternoon, while she was helping her aunt prepare food, she heard hurried footsteps at the door. Her cousin ran in, breathless. "They said he went to your father's friend today. He asked him to be a witness for something important." Her hands froze, the ladle slipping from her grasp. Could it be? Was he truly making his move despite all opposition? Her heart raced, tears pricking her eyes, but before she could ask further, her aunt's face darkened. She muttered under her breath, "This will not end well. They will never allow it." Fear and hope wrestled in her chest. She didn't know whether to rejoice or to prepare for another heartbreak. But deep inside, she felt something stir, an unshakable certainty that if Allah had written this for her, no one on earth could stop it. That night, she could not sleep. Every sound outside made her heart leap, thinking news would arrive. She lay on her prayer mat after Isha, whispering her dua over and over. Ya Allah, if this is good for me, make it easy. If it is bad, remove it from my heart and replace it with something better. The next morning, the storm came. Her uncle called her to the sitting room. His voice was heavy, sharp like a blade. I heard what you and that boy are planning. Do you want to shame us before the family? Do you think we will allow such a marriage? Her knees trembled. She tried to explain, her voice soft. But, uncle, he fears Allah. He prays. He is a man of deen. Enough, he thundered, slamming his hand against the table. You are forbidden from seeing him again. If I hear one more word about him, I will send you away from this house. The words pierced her like arrows. She lowered her head, tears spilling silently, while her aunt glared from the corner. That night, she wept into her pillow, her chest heavy with pain. She thought of giving up, of burying her feelings once and for all. But then, just before dawn, she dreamed a dream so vivid that it shook her soul. She saw herself in a white garment, standing beneath the shade of a tree, her hands in prayer. Beside her, a man's voice recited Qur'an with such beauty that the leaves trembled. Though she couldn't see his face, her heart knew it was him. She awoke trembling and whispering, Ya Allah, is this a sign, or is this my heart clinging to hope? She didn't know, but one thing was certain. Her test had only just begun. Days passed into weeks, and weeks into months. Yet, despite the cold treatment from his family, he never left her side. Every insult they hurled at her, he quietly turned into fuel for his patience. But the whispers became louder. She is only after what he has. She will drag him into poverty. She has nothing to give him but disgrace. She heard every word, sometimes spoken so loudly that it was as if they wanted her to hear it. And each time, her heart sank a little deeper. One evening, after another round of harsh words from his relatives, she sat alone on her prayer mat. Tears fell onto the carpet as she raised her hands. Ya Allah, I did not choose him for wealth nor for comfort. I chose him because of his deen. If this path is truly good for us, make it easy, and if it is not, then turn my heart away with ease. That night, something changed. For the first time, she felt a quiet strength inside her. The strength to endure, but also the strength to let go if Allah willed. The next morning, he found her calmer, even after the storm of accusations. She looked at him and said softly, I will not fight them. I will not dishonor you, but I will continue to trust Allah's plan. If He wrote us together, no one can erase it. And with those words, she placed the entire matter in Allah's hands. Little did she know, the storm was only beginning.
The day finally arrived. The sun had barely risen when my mother woke me with tears in her eyes. Today, my daughter, she whispered, Allah will honor you before those who once mocked you. Neighbors whispered, relatives gathered, and even those who once looked down on us came dressed in their finest clothes, curious, shocked, and perhaps even ashamed. The hall was simple but filled with rite. Flowers adorned the entrance, and the sound of Qur'an recitation filled the air. When he arrived, dressed with humility and dignity, my heart trembled. He walked in not with arrogance, but with a smile of relief,
like a man who had found what he had been searching for all along. Our family sat and the Imam began the nikah. The same voices that once said, "She is too poor, she doesn't deserve him," were now silent, unable to deny what Allah had written. As the Imam asked the question, my voice quivered but was firm. "Qabiltu," meaning, I accept. At that moment, I felt every pain, every humiliation, every tear wash away. Allah had written my name beside his, not because of wealth, not because of status, but because of Qadr. And when it was announced that we were now husband and wife, my mother wept openly, lifting her hands in dua. Ya Allah, you are the most just. You never abandon those who put their trust in you. But even in that moment of joy, I knew this was not just my story. It was a reminder for every girl who is told she is not enough, for every family humiliated because of poverty, for every believer who puts their trust in Allah. What is written for you will never miss you. The hall was filled with joy, yet inside me was a storm of emotions, gratitude, relief, and awe at Allah's perfect timing. I looked around and saw faces. Those who once mocked us now lowering their gaze, unable to meet my eyes. Not because I sought revenge, but because Allah had written for me a dignity they could never erase. As I sat beside my husband, I whispered to myself, this is not about me. This is about Allah's justice. He raises whom He wills, and He humbles whom He wills. That night, when the celebrations ended and silence returned, I prayed 2 long rakats. With tears soaking my prayer mat, I said, Ya Allah, I was once the girl people mocked. I was once the girl people rejected. But you, Ya Allah, you clothe me with honor I never imagined. Let me never forget that all this is from you alone. Keep us steadfast in Iman, make our marriage a path to Jannah, and let this story be a reminder for every heart that feels broken. And to you, my dear sister or brother, listening to this story, if people mock you for your poverty, your skin color, your niqab, your simplicity, or your background, remember this. People only see the surface, but Allah sees your heart. The world may say, you are not enough, but Allah says, you are exactly where I want you to be. Never forget, rejection from people is not rejection from Allah. And when Allah writes honor for you, no tongue, no hand, no envy, no lie can erase it. So lift your head high, trust in His Qadr, keep making dua in the silence of the night, for the same Allah who answered me will answer you too. May Allah clothe you with dignity in this world and the next. May He heal your hidden wounds, replace every rejection with honor, and grant you a spouse and a life that brings you closer to Him. Ameen. And to you, my dear sister or brother listening to this story, if this story touched your heart, don't just listen, share it, subscribe, and pray for us as we continue bringing you reminders that heal the soul.